So how do we what USL team? MLS does have documentaries and they've done stuff, and I know, but what MLS what not MLS team? What lower division American soccer team should have its own docuseries? Connects with its town, culture of the town, the attitude, the spirit, whatever it might be.
Well, if you're talking about new examples, stuff from the summer, I sure hope Vermont Green is making a docuseries. I sure hope Portland Hearts of Pine are making something along those lines, and even the burrito guys over Farolito. I'm sure there could be some interesting conversations to be had about that. And there's countless amounts of new teams on the rise, but that's a good point. Which ones would we want to see documented in a legit docuseries?
From a storytelling perspective, American soccer clubs have typically, not always, but typically have a very different feel, right? There's no, I mean, I said Necaxa moved in 2003, but obviously that's a club that goes way, way back in Mexican football. Campo Basso, I'm sure it's a 100-year-old club because every Italian club is 100 years old. We know about Birmingham City. We know about Wrexham. Right. So when we talk about American soccer, we're talking about, generally speaking, new projects. And even if they're not new projects, they're kind of still new projects. So who is it that we can follow? Or maybe it's the Cosmos, right? Maybe the new New York Cosmos, which I think a lot of us are keeping a skeptical eye on for a lot of reasons. But if they're trying to recapture the spirit of that original Cosmos, Rob, the one that eventually in the 70s signed Pelé and Canalia and Beckenbauer and Carlos Alberto and had all that said and had Shep Messing in goal and was so high profile. They're trying to capture that spirit. Can they do that? Can they find that in Paterson, New Jersey? Well, maybe I watch a show and see if if those guys can figure it out.
That's a good shout, because obviously it's like a huge challenge. They can, hang their hats on some former glories. And they could also ring in some celebrities from the olden times, and then have, both the people in the project currently describing it, and then maybe you hear some of the old fashioned stories describing the new challenges of connecting the dots.
I'm just brainstorming here. We're just responding to moments. Wicked Bruce says he's tired of the Cosmos story being retold over. I'm not talking about telling the story of the Pele years. I'm talking about what's happening right now. Now you'd have to invoke Pele. Of course you would. But I want to know, hey, how hard is it to sell Paterson, New Jersey, North Jersey on the idea of the Cosmos? Maybe I'm wrong. Andy says there's already an excellent Cosmos documentary, but you want a series. There's a movie, a once in a lifetime. There's an excellent documentary on those Pele years in New York and all of that. I think they made a second thing called Twice in a Lifetime when they were, which now we've got to call it Thrice in a Lifetime. I mean, I don't know. It might be too much. All right. There are other good stories. Maybe let's not be prisoners of the moment. You said Hearts of Pine. You said Vermont Green. Those are obviously great stories of the moment. But what about Ford Madison, which is still going strong? What, 6, 7, 8 years in after making a splash with their imaging and their shirts and all that stuff. I mean, it could be Chattanooga. Right? Chattanooga FC is a fascinating. It could be Detroit City, obviously, as they get ready to build their stadium. Right? Tell me the story of Detroit City from the moment 5 guys got together out of an adult league in Detroit to start an amateur summer league club, and then tell me the story of them pumping water out of a basement in a decrepit hospital and finding urban explorers who made terrible mistakes and trying to build a 15,000 seat stadium. Do that too. Yeah. I mean, I know it costs money, but somebody do that in Hollywood.
There's definitely plenty of stories to be had. I think it's ripe landscape for such stories. You just rattled off half a dozen. But while we were digging into the new docuseries, I remembered that there is a big major like CBS network documentary about one Christian Pulisic, and I noticed there is still 2 episodes to go. It's only 7 of 9 have been released. And I want to know, has anyone checked in on this recently? I watched 2 or 3, maybe 4. There's a couple nuggets, but I feel like if people were watching the whole summer of sin for Pulisic, probably made that fall off a cliff.
Rob, I didn't watch the Apple TV Messi documentary that they dropped when he arrived in America. I didn't watch that thing. Player-driven documentaries are really tough sells for me, I think. Really tough. I'm trying to think of one that maybe I watched and enjoyed.
Like a real-time one or historical one, the Maradona.
I mean, no, anything with archived footage and anything that tells a story that was not told before in the moment, absolutely. The Maradona HBO, that was a movie though, so a documentary. If you're talking about a series and you're trying to stretch out to 9 episodes on one guy, and that one guy is anybody, but much less Christian Pulisic, yeah, you're going to lose me. You're going to lose me. I watched the first 2 episodes of that. There were moments that I was like, oh, okay, but it didn't have a hook. It didn't keep me engaged. And I also think that there's a fundamental problem for me. And again, this is why I think maybe these things aren't for me all the time, because I have trouble. Like if I already know what happened because I follow soccer in a given season for a player, but particularly for a team, I don't know, like unless it's a very dramatic ending, and I guess that's the argument you can make for Wrexham getting promoted. But unless it's a very dramatic ending, it's hard for me to be like, yeah, I'm going to go watch a show about a season I experienced as a fan, watching it happen, unfold. And now we're going back in time. I'm in a time machine for that. Again, and I'm spending multiple episodes over the course of months. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, well, the Wrexham had the idyllic start because they were kind of coming out from the darkness. No one was following the National League or any of that stuff. So it was, experiencing it live. But yeah, since then, yeah, anyone could have followed it, and it's not quite as mysterious.
Okay. I know we're extra time here. Shout out to the ultras for hanging out. I want to bring this in. Crispy Doo, who is on one of our members. Reason I have never watched Drive to Survive is what he's talking about. Like the season's already happened. He knows who won the title. He knows what happened in F1, and he's not going back to watch a season of Drive to Survive that chronicles that season. I get it, right? But I was not, and I have not kept up with it. I'll admit that. But I was not an F1 fan. I had a vague sense of it, but I was not a fan at all. And Drive to Survive got me. Like it hit me. Like I was like, oh, I'm all in on this. This is incredible. Look at the back and forth, and we're switching from McLaren to Ferrari, and I was in. But I think it's because I was new to the sport, and it was a learning experience on that front, as in addition to whatever happened during that F1 season.